See, first of all, the country should believe that it has a rich heritage. Unfortunately, we have been under alien rule for almost 1300 years, starting from 8th century till the mid of 20th century. When the Mughal were ruling us, they also had a certain feel for culture and religion in their own form. They may want to oppress something, they may want to force certain faith on us, but they never wanted to finish off something, which is what happened during the colonial period. They wanted to completely brainwash people, and they did it strategically by trying to make people believe that they have been mindlessly following certain things, stupidly doing certain things. As a result, many of us till today are not even aware of the rich heritage that we have. So, lack of knowledge is one of the most fundamental factors. Why did we end up with this situation? So, that is the next question that we need to understand. Is it that everyone who believes that we didn't have a rich heritage as a result of something which has been strategically done, or is it something we do not have the heritage? If we do not have heritage, no one will be aware of anyway. I believe that it has been strategically done by authoring several texts, maybe 200 years back, and these texts were primarily to make you believe that you people are worthless. Whatever that was here was also presented with a certain glass to make you believe. There are instances in which I can tell you in history of mathematics, where the employees of the East Indian Company, because of their own interest, try to investigate about a certain thing which was discovered in India, and being fascinated by that, they wanted to see to it that they make it aware to the West that these people have discovered something which is fantastic. But the moment they made certain efforts to compose an article and publish in their own journal, the other officials sitting there dissuaded these people and made these people believe forcibly that it should have been transmitted from there to here. And this man genuinely fights for it for a decade and finally manages to publish it just before he passed away. So these records clearly point to the fact that there was a deliberate attempt to suppress the contribution of a particular nation. And it is very clear to us that since this has been their agenda, all the texts that have been authored by them presented a certain Eurocentric view. One is to present that our nation had this, the other is to present that your nation did not have this. So here both ways this was done, and as a result, those who are exposed only to those texts which have been authored by them, which speak of our own contribution in their own light for their own purposes, do not have any clear picture of our own heritage. Not only this, if a nation has to understand what its heritage has been, there should be courses which is available either at the school level, or there should be parental care which can teach them irrespective of what is being taught in the school, or there should be literature which is available to a common man which he can read for himself and analyze for himself to understand what its contribution is. Now we are lacking in all the three aspects. As a result, it is not a surprise that none of us are aware of our own cultural or scientific heritage and its value. I wouldn't blame the entire West for the reason that they are not equipped enough to understand this literature which is presented in a language which is alien to them. But our own people having a disregard for this is something which is shameful, and it is not to blame the individual for having this disregard, but the way it has been designed is something which has to be understood. Fortunately, I had the occasion to go personally and see what China has done. Today, I mean, they have come up in a big way over the last few decades. And I would say one of the reasons for this is the efforts which were put as a nation to make every citizen of China aware of their own scientific and technological heritage. Even today, in one of the biggest universities, Beijing University, when you enter, there is a big edict wherein, among various things, they say, be patriotic. And no doctor can receive his certificate from his university unless he completes a certain course on Chinese medicine. So here we have a very rich heritage of Ayurvedic tradition, so which has been completely disregarded, and there are many other traditions as well. The reason of quoting this is, every citizen of China, as he passes through the corridors of schools and colleges, he is definitely exposed to their own scientific and technological heritage, which has been documented, so well documented, sometimes even over documented, but they are aware to some extent. So this perhaps unknowingly contributes in a big way to build the self-esteem and self-confidence with which they are able to move ahead, which is not the case with India. Therefore, as a nation, we need to devise strategies to make people aware of their own cultural and scientific heritage, which cannot be gained with the texts that are currently available. So we have to design courses, we have to develop texts, so which throw enough light on our own contributions. One way to turn around the situation is a big nationalist movement should start. But such movements are rare in history, where irrespective of what the government is, people get motivated and then they go ahead and find their own ways to achieve what they want to achieve. The other way is by sort of devising courses by which you will be able to do this. Definitely, government can play a very major role in trying to introduce courses which neither make too much of hyperbole about what is available, nor trash it down, but present facts. If it is done, then definitely a few among the young minds may get excited about it, and they may be able to do some remarkable work in their own chosen fields. So an introductory course, both at school level as well as at college level, I would say should be made mandatory. And it cannot just happen all of a sudden, because a lot of things have to be undone. So whether you will undo things or you redo things, it is up to us. But by redoing, we will be undoing over a period of time. For that, at least a handful of scholars have to be necessarily employed. And all that has happened in India till now is primarily because of the interest which those scholars took by themselves and not by any encouragement at the state or governmental level. More importantly, many people do not engage themselves, particularly bright minds do not engage themselves in this kind of activity because there is no respectability. If there is respect for a discipline given by the society, so then things will flourish. we all know for sure that there has been patronage to the art. Unless there is patronage, it's difficult for anything to flourish. History of science particularly has not been considered any serious discipline because the aliens, when they were trying to rule us, they said what you are doing cannot be considered as a science at all. And if they had this belief, who formed the system for us? Where is the question of making any serious study in history of science? And over hundreds of years, they devised strategies to see that this is completely eliminated. Only a section of people will be chosen to be trained. And they will be trained in such a way that they will repeat or parrot what was taught to them. So it's not that this individual chooses or develops prejudice because of his fault, but because of the fault of the system. So that is what has happened. And given that today most of the historians in India have been trained in that system, so any change that is being attempted by the government is also opposed vehemently by this group because of the fixed ideologies which they have imbibed through the system. So this is something that is very complex to resolve, and some efforts, I believe, are being made today because of some top people who are thinking about the well-being of the nation and not well-being of themselves. See, this again had a very interesting origin. When Murli Manohar Joshi was in MHRD, he thought that Sanskrit should also be made integral part of various courses which are offered in IITs. This was a very strange thought. This is what my understanding is. And a note in this regard was also perhaps circulated among various IITs. But IITs, being IITs and filled with certain kind of people, were not so welcoming this move. But individuals who have otherwise read about this, who are partially aware about this rich scientific heritage which is available in Sanskrit literature, some senior faculty members, they felt that we need not necessarily introduce course on Sanskrit, but as a technical institute devoted to science, we may be able to take up research work as well as develop courses to see that our own people can be sort of made aware of the heritage that we have. That way, they thought of establishing a small cell primarily to engage with research on scientific and technological works available in Sanskrit, and also try to develop courses to the students to make it available for them to understand and appreciate for themselves, because there are a lot of electives which are being offered in IIT to broaden their view. So that way IIT Bombay had a few members who thought that we should try and take this opportunity to introduce these courses, and that is how I think they started this unit. Apparently a couple of other IITs including IIT Kanpur also started this, but then it fizzled out because of lack of people who will be able to communicate with equal facility in Sanskrit as well as modern science. So it didn't work out perhaps.